This is the Pacific Way podcast, bringing you stories that matter to Pacific peoples. Talofa Mbulavinaka, hello and maulile, and warm Pacific greetings to you all, wherever you're tuning in from across our blue Pacific continent. In our villages, on our islands, and along our coastlines, our greatest strength is our people, but too often, many voices, especially women and marginalized groups in fisheries, are left unheard. Today's Talanoa session explores the real challenges of gender equality and social inclusion in fisheries and why addressing these issues is essential for effective communication and just to boost sustainable fisheries management in the Pacific. We'll hear from fisheries practitioners, women fishers, youth leaders, and change makers who are not just asking for a seat at the table, but to be recognized, valued, and to actively contribute to our shared resources. This is our story, this is our ocean, and this is why every voice matters. Now, joining us today in today's episode are two wonderful ladies. We have Miss Mafa Wilson-Qiolele. She is the country director for Sea Change in Fiji. I hope I said that correctly. Sea Change is a non-profit organization based in Suva, and it creates innovative communications initiatives just to drive transformation change for good. The Sea Change focus has mainly been on sustainable resources management, including fisheries management, climate change, and also sustainable land management. And also joining us via Zoom is the beautiful Miss Ulusapeti. She is a former principal fisheries officer with Samoa's Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and now works with Conservation International Samoa as a project manager for Kiwa Restore Project. She has strong experience in coastal fisheries and aquaculture, especially seafood farming, and is a well-known advocate for women in fisheries. Many across the Pacific Islands will look up to her as a leader, a role model in promoting gender equality and also inclusion into this sector. Mbulavinaka ladies, thank you for joining me today. Now, Sapeti, just the first question. As a fisheries practitioner, you've worked in specific areas. What differences have you observed among the people or communities who have been left out, overlooked in the fisheries sector? And what issues remained invincible?
Thank you for the question, and Salo Falava and Pula Vinaka. Yes, I have been working in fisheries, and when it comes to working with communities, it's really hard to actually include all the village groups, mainly the women, the men, youth, as well as marginalized groups. However, our work is to be able to include everyone. In that case, because we know and we are aware that fisheries sector is everyone's responsibility, and we have our own our different roles and duties. For example, for men, they usually have their own fishing gears and fishing techniques and methods that they use, as well as women, mainly in cleaning and invertebrates collection. So in Samoa, women and other marginalized groups, they are usually very strong and very active in the fisheries sector in terms of post-harvesting, marketing, and processing. But when it comes down to decision making, they're sometimes left out. But what we are trying to introduce or inform the village hierarchy is that women and youth also have a voice to be heard. So that's why we are included them in consultations and trainings and meetings now, as we already have gender analysis for fisheries and aquaculture, and that's where we recognized, that women, youth, and men have their own roles, have their own access to or needs for the resources. So that's why it's really important for everyone to be included, and everyone's voice to be heard.
Thank you for that. Well, now, Mafa, when we talk about Jesse in the context of culture, what does that really mean for the messages that we share with Pacific fishing communities?
What Sapeti said earlier, everyone's voice matters. For us at Sea Change, we were initially running the 4FJ campaign. We were talking about everyone's included, the chiefs, men, women, youths, and children. Sometimes when we go out for our outreach, the children are left behind or the women are left behind. When we have workshops in the communities, we would look across the hall or the village in the room, it's full of men. And we would ask, where are the women? And they would say, oh, they're preparing lunch, they're preparing morning tea. And we would ask the Turang and Nikoro, is it possible if we could bring some of the women or some of the youth to be included in the workshop? So, they would do that. But otherwise, traditionally, culturally, when we attend workshops and all that, it's just mainly men. But it's changing now. We are seeing a lot more women involved in the workshops or in the training. At one time, when we have pledge drives for the 4FJ campaign, this is for the grouper ban. This young kid took the pledge. He said, I will not buy, eat, or sell, or even go fishing for kawa kawa and donu. That weekend, they went to Bailey Bridge to buy fish for maybe Sunday lunch, and there was kawa kawa and donu in the market. And the parents were going to buy the fish, and then he said, no, you can't buy that. I took the pledge not to buy or eat kawa kawa and donu. So, even children are influencing their parents, to say no to kawa kawa and donu. So, yes, everyone's voice matters when it comes to Jesse in the context of culture.
Now, in many Pacific Island cultures, we have a habit of adding humor into almost every conversation that we possibly have. I feel like for us in the Pacific community, it's just a way it's like a coping mechanism, like humor. Like, what do you suggest, Sapeti? Like, for us to take something really serious, like a very hard-on conversation, it's always adding into humor, so we take it more seriously rather than the actual serious tone. Like, what are your perspective of this?
Yeah, the Pacific humor is always help in a very hard or very difficult situation, um, especially when we've experienced out in the communities, when we have a lot of uh, girls or women in our team, and then we go out to communities. So sometimes it's really hard to get the chiefs to convince the chiefs that women participation is very important for the consultation. So I always um, try to make them think that, you see, our team, there's a lot of women in it,
Yeah.
so we would like to see some women in the crowd, in the audience. And then the chiefs think, okay, so these are the ladies coming to talk about fisheries management, conservation, and environment. So yes, it would be good to include them. So that's the kind of humor, and sometimes we take it as a joke, but at the same time it's a lesson that we it's a message that we are trying to put through the the so many male dominated communities that we are working with.
What do you suggest, Mafa?
For Sea Change, because we run campaigns, we don't just do awareness. We actually would run a campaign. The one that we're running at the moment is the 4FJ Fish Smart. 4FJ focused on the ban on the grouper, but 4FJ Fish Smart focuses on all marine species. And We have developed tools that we're using right now. For an example, is the booklet in front of you. We would use this booklet for Talanoa sessions. We would train the conservation officers and the fisheries officers before they actually go down into the communities, because Sea Change, we are not site-based. So we rely heavily on our partners to take these booklets, and when they actually finish with their program, they would sit down in the afternoon around the Tanoa and have a Talanoa session using this booklet. So we find that storytelling is another way of breaking barrier. It's not formal. They can sit around and have Talanoa sessions. It's a way that they can connect across generations, whether it's a chief or the hierarchy in the communities. So doing the Talanoa sessions breaks that barrier. You can actually just sit down, make it informal, and have a Talanoa session, so you can actually tell them about your message, what your key messages are.
Now, Sapiti, can you just maybe give us an example of someone being left out from fishing interventions? I mean, this could be accessing markets or benefiting from services and training, not being invited to consultations. You've been always on the ground on this. Can you just give us your perspective of this?
Yes, I think I'll say the olden days, or maybe like 10 to 20 years ago, we firstly concentrate or focus on men. When it comes to aquaculture and coastal fisheries activities, we tend to contact men, the chiefs, and left out the women. But as years come by and we see in our work that there's a gap, that we need to preach there, that we need to connect to the women, and sometimes we, even as women or even the women in the communities, they don't recognize their role that they play in fisheries sector. You know, for example, we carried out the survey on the gender analysis, and we tend to ask the women, what are your roles that you played for the fisheries management and also aquaculture? Oh no, I don't have any role. Okay, but any time of the day that you think that when your husband is not here, your kids are not here, and then their responses were like, "Oh yeah, I know the time that I can feed tilapia." Okay, what? How do you know it? Because when the tilapia comes on the surface or on the water surface, that's when I know that it's time to feed them. Because so see, you're playing a huge role. You know the time. So from there, we have to recognize, and recognition starts from you, your roles that you play in the sector. And when you also go to the market to expose seafood for sale, that is another role. But yes, we have to make um, empower empower the women, to really see and recognize their roles within the sector, and also make the men to understand that gender is not referring to only women, it's for everyone. And access to resources, also involved in decision making, everyone has a role to play.
Now, Mafa, you mentioned about campaigns. And now, how do you mix old traditions with the new technology when you really want to get the message across? And also speak of the campaigns, like what are some successful campaigns that you've actually done in your line of work recently?
I would talk about the 4FJ campaign. It was a success in the sense that it got recognized by government. The campaign was going on for a couple of years.
Yeah.
before 2017 when there was a UN Oceans Conference in New York, and the government of Fiji made 17 voluntary commitments, and one of them was the ban of kawakawa and donu, which is in place today. And if you break the law, you will be fined. So that was the 4FJ campaign. It's change does not happen overnight. We would repeat the same message over and over again. Like for the 4FJ campaign, it was running for a couple of years until it became legalized, and the ban is actually in place right now. So that was, 4FJ campaign was a success, and right now we're running the 4FJ Fish Smart campaign, which is the next chapter. We're not just focusing on the grouper, but we are focusing on all marine species. The platform we would use, because there are different audiences. We have the radio talkback show, using Radio Fiji One, because a lot of the coastal Marines, like in the outer islands, they would tune in and listen to the radio talkback shows. Of course, social media, it's very powerful here in Fiji. Everyone has a phone, everyone is accessing social media. We would have direct engagement as well, stories with Fiji Times or Fiji Sun. We would also do a private sector outreach where we visit all restaurants, the fish vendors, exporters, hotels. They would come on board and take the pledge and say no to undersized fish. So with different audience, there's different platforms, and we use all of that across Fiji.
Now you said changes can be slow. I mean, especially when women or marginalized groups push for more recognition in fisheries. What's the best way to keep the conversation going, even when people resist?
Like I said earlier, change does not happen overnight. You've got to repeat your message. Whatever the message is, knowing your audience, you've got to repeat the same message. You have to persevere. You've got to be patient. There's a lot of Talanoa sessions. Don't give up, even if you don't see changes yet. It might take a year or 2 or 3. One other thing is very important is your partnership, because you can't just do it alone. It's going to take everyone to work together to make it a success. Working with government, working with other NGO partners, private sector out there. It's going to take everyone, all of us, to work together to make it a success.
Now, Sapeti, how do you, like, just from Mafa's perspective, how do you stay persistent and patient when your voice or other women's voices aren't taken seriously at first, especially in the fisheries sector in Samoa?
From my perspective, sometimes culture is seen as a barrier, but I think we should use it as to our advantage, because in Samoa we have women with chief titles, and they are also parts of the village fono, or the village meeting, where they make a decision. And also some of in our culture we also have women's committee, that they play a huge role in village customs and village duties as a communal activity. And um, and in some cases women also um provided, they provided advice to their husbands who are chiefs, so their voices are heard, although it's indirectly, but surely they have been recognized in some instances. That's why I said, we have to play our culture to its advantage, because some, like Mafa was saying, that it's everyone's responsibilities. So if we want a strong and sustainable future for our fisheries, for our local communities, so everyone needs to be, part of our journey. We have to steer our canoe together, to this very vast and big ocean, so that we can be able to, put everyone on the canoe, that meaning that it's everyone's responsibility.
Now, Mafa, just with the strategies, what strategies help build understanding and respect over time, especially in your line of work and moving over into the fisheries sector?
Thank you. Building understanding and respect over time. That I would say it requires intentional efforts, especially in active listening. We can't just go out into the communities and say blah blah blah. You got to do this, do that, do that. No, we need to also listen to what they have to say. Empathy. And recognizing individual strengths, like what I was sharing earlier. Sea Change can do it alone. Sea Change plus Ministry of Fisheries, we can't do it alone. So it's very crucial to also embrace diversity, challenge biases, and practice treating everyone with dignity and fairness. I think it's fair that when we go out, we actually take time to listen to our elders, traditional knowledge. Including that into the work that we're doing, it's very important as well. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Stars to Sail By. Today, we learned why including women, youth, and communities in the fisheries sector and management is so important. When every voice is heard, we protect not just the ocean, but our way of life. Every voice matters, every story counts. Join us next time for more stories and navigation tips, ideas from the Jesse Fisheries community space. Winakavakalevu Fafitai Lava, and see you soon.